The gala lights burned white and soft across polished floors, and the room smelled like river water, perfume, and warm frosting. Mother walked in with 2 boxes of cupcakes balanced on a dolly, sleeves rolled, hair pulled back, eyes quiet and steady. Mother planned to drop the desserts at the banquet tables, smile at the committee, and head home. Mother never planned to see a giant check with Mother's own name printed across the line reserved for the donor. Mother never planned to hear microphones click on and catch the foundation director say, "Tonight we honor a surprise gift from someone who insists on humility." Mother never planned to be the surprise. Mother never wrote a check. Mother never made a pledge. Mother looked at the oversized cardstock, then at the daughter-in-law in a bright dress, then at the son who stood too straight and not straight enough, and Mother felt the room tilt. Mother set down the dolly, stepped up to the stage, and placed a small brass key on the table next to the check. Mother said, in a voice calm enough to wrinkle the glass around it, "This key opens the pantry you hid your ledgers in. I brought cupcakes. I did not bring your numbers." For a moment, nobody moved. The band stopped in the middle of a note. The treasurer swallowed hard. The director smiled too fast, too wide. The daughter-in-law touched the son's arm, then let go. Mother did not blink. Mother would wait. Mother had receipts. Mother had a note. Mother had a key. By Friday at 5 in the afternoon, in a small room at the county auditor's office, the story would end with a single question that turned the whole town quiet. But stories do not begin with endings, and that morning started with flour, tape, and a delivery route that made sense. Mother's morning began before the sun cleared the river bridge. Mother flipped the bakery sign to open and poured coffee into a dented thermos. Mother checked the ovens, slid trays of cupcakes to the cool racks, and logged temperatures with a black pen in a book that never left the workstation. The thermometer clipped to the cooler door read 38 degrees. Mother wrote the number, circled it, and drew a short line under the hour. The bakery smelled like vanilla and cinnamon, and the air hummed with the quiet of hard work. Mother ran this routine 5 days a week and did not talk about it much. Mother believed in showing up and doing what needed to be done. Mother liked to finish the job without making noise. The phone on the back wall buzzed and picked up the Wi-Fi soft chime. A message flashed on the old tablet where Mother checked orders and routes. The line said, "Thank you for your generous gift," and looked like a standard receipt from the community foundation, the kind that goes out with a logo and a tax note. Mother frowned and wiped powdered sugar off the screen with the corner of a towel. The amount was more than a month's profit, and those numbers were not Mother's number. A small line read, "Anonymous per donor's request," but the next line said, "Recorded in the name of donor for acknowledgement ceremony, tonight, Riverside Civic Center." Mother watched a dot blink next to report an error. Mother tapped it, but the form asked for a donor ID that Mother did not have because Mother had not donated. The phone buzzed again. Another message from the foundation's office. "Our director would love a photo at the check presentation. We heard you will be catering. Perfect synergy." Mother stood very still. Mother did not cater galas for the foundation. Mother had been hired to provide cupcakes by the contractor who rented event space. That contract had no mention of any donation. Mother looked at the clock and shut her eyes. Mother had 3 hours to frost, box, and load. Mother would finish the work because the people who eat cupcakes are never the problem. Then Mother would ask questions. The bakery door opened and the neighbor stepped in, the one who worked across the street at the clerk's counter at City Hall. The neighbor wore a gray sweater and a lanyard with a badge. The neighbor always ordered 2 blueberry muffins and said, "Good morning," like the words were heavier than they looked. "Busy day," the neighbor said. "I saw the trucks going toward the Civic Center." "Busy," Mother said. "Do you know anything about the foundation tonight?" The neighbor shrugged. "Just that the director has been everywhere with a camera lately." "Why?" Mother turned the tablet around. The neighbor read the message and put the muffins back in the paper bag without taking a bite. The neighbor spoke softly. "If someone used your name, you should pull the public record. The foundation files event agendas and donor acknowledgments. The county keeps an archive online. I can show you at lunch." Mother nodded. "I'll be at the Civic Center by 3. If I can, I'll stop by after." The neighbor tapped the bag. "Keep the receipt. You always do. Keep this one too." Mother loaded the van with cupcakes and checked the dolly straps twice. Mother glanced at the phone on the passenger seat to make sure maps were set. The son called and the name flashed across the glass. Mother answered on speaker and shifted into drive. "Running late?" the son asked. "Director wants everything at 5 on the dot." "Everything will be there," Mother said. "The contractor hired me, not the director." "Well, the director's the one with the microphone," the son said, trying to sound light. "Your favorite." Mother did not answer that part. "Did you give anyone my name for anything?" "Huh? What do you mean?" "Did you give my name to the foundation for a gift?" Mother kept her voice even. "I got a receipt I didn't ask for." The son hesitated. "That must be a glitch. The daughter-in-law said the foundation sometimes puts vendor names on a list to thank local businesses. It's good for marketing. You know how it is." "Marketing," Mother said, and watched a school bus pull to a stop ahead. "If someone prints my name on a check, it better be because I wrote one." "Of course," the son said too quickly. "Listen, I have to jump. Big day. See you at 5. The line clicked off. Mother drove along the river road where the guardrails creaked in winter and the water held the shape of wind. The town was not big. It had 2 stoplights that took too long and a main street that changed hands and paint colors every few years. People in this town cared about how things looked. That could be generous. That could be sharp. Mother parked at the Civic Center's loading dock. An event staffer waved and held the door with a foot. "Cupcakes," Mother said. 160, vanilla, lemon, chocolate, red velvet. "You're the hero," the staffer said, and Mother almost smiled. Heroes usually bring calm sugar, not keys. Mother stacked the boxes in the cold room and signed the clipboard with the time and delivery. Mother's pen moved like a small and certain metronome. Mother did not write fast or slow. Mother wrote right. When Mother turned to leave, the daughter-in-law appeared, bright and lovely, and already wired with the kind of energy that makes pictures better and nights longer. The daughter-in-law wore a dress the color of champagne and a smile that could cut through twine. "You're a lifesaver," the daughter-in-law said, and then lowered the voice to a thread. "Now, please, once you're done, stay out of the pictures. The director has a plan for the stage and there's a whole look. You were a caterer once, remember?" The daughter-in-law laughed as if the words were light. "Just kidding," the daughter-in-law added. "Not kidding. I remember work. I heard there's a check with my name." The daughter-in-law's laugh held steady as glass. "Oh, that! You know how these things go. The director might thank the cupcakes with a prop. It's optics. People love seeing names. People also love seeing truth," Mother said. "You're overthinking. the daughter-in-law said, already looking past Mother to a tray of centerpieces. The director's waiting. The treasurer said the press wants a quote from a local business. Don't make this difficult. It looks small town if the cupcakes lady fights the microphone. Mother watched the daughter-in-law turn away and felt an old familiar warmth in the chest, like anger powered by something steady, not wild. Mother had worked too many nights for words like cupcakes lady to take root now. Mother left the cold room and followed a hallway that led to a storage pantry marked with a sign that said foundation supplies. A thin strip of light showed under the door. Mother tried the handle and found it locked. A clipboard hung nearby with a calendar printed in colored blocks. A small note taped to the corner read, "Foundation key with director only." Mother traced the edges of the note with a fingertip. The paper had been moved and replaced. The tape edges had dust on the outside and fresh grip under the corners. Mother walked back toward the loading dock and took out a small ring Mother never left home without. The ring held a few odd keys collected over years of work in kitchens, delivery rooms, and old buildings where locks stayed as long as memories. One brass key had an old inscription from a hardware store that did not exist anymore, a key given to Mother by a janitor who retired and said, "You always close the door, right?" Mother did not try it yet. Mother had enough to carry. Mother returned to Main Street and crossed to City Hall. The neighbor held the door and waved Mother to the side desk. The room hummed with printers and the low tone of good work. "You want records," the neighbor said, opening a browser. "Foundation agendas, donor acknowledgments, permit filings, event setup sheets. The county keeps copies. If someone filed your name, we'll find the line." Mother stood close and read while the neighbor typed. On the screen, a series of PDFs lined up like drawers in a metal cabinet. Monthly meetings, annual audit letters, sponsorship packages. The neighbor scrolled to the most recent agenda for the gala and clicked. A block of text thanked a list of donors and sponsors. Mother found the bakery listed as in-kind dessert vendor with a small note, "In-kind dessert arrangements valued at," the number was right for the cupcakes. Another line read, "Anonymous gift pledged in name of local business for community pride moment." There were no details. The director's signature sparkled at the bottom, a swooping name that looked like ribbon. "Click the sponsorship package," Mother said. The neighbor opened a document with glossy photos and numbers. The highest tier suggested a stage moment and a donor wall plaque. A smaller box at the bottom said, "Honor someone who represents the heart of our town," and offered to do a surprise call-out in the honoree's name. The language sounded dreamy and slippery. "This is a thing," the neighbor said. "People love honoring people." "Honoring people with numbers those people didn't write," Mother said. "Can you pull banking disclosures?" "If they filed them," the neighbor said. "The foundation submits quarterly reports." The neighbor clicked to a page with bland formatting and small print. A few numbers were blacked out. Others sat out in the open, totals and categories. There was a line for pledges receivable with a note that said, "Collected at gala." The amount matched the fake receipt on Mother's tablet. "Thank you," Mother said. "You're going to need more than PDFs," the neighbor said, eyes kind and blunt. "Bring what you always bring. Bring the book. Bring timestamps. Bring the way you look at a room until it talks." Mother nodded and headed back to the Civic Center as the late afternoon ran its golden brush down the glass. The band rehearsed a standard that tasted like ice in a glass. Plates lined up under soft lights. The director stood near the stage wearing black and a blazer with a tiny pen that caught the light. The director held 2 phones and smiled with both hands. The treasurer checked a list and a watch and the tightness of the knot in a tie. "Perfect timing," the director called, spotting Mother. "I heard you're the soul of the dessert table. We love that. Tonight we honor the people who make things sweet." "I'll do my job," Mother said. "I also need to know why my name is on a check." "Oh, that," the director said, laughter like a spoon tapping the rim of a cup. "We have a little moment planned. It's good for the community." My name is not an ingredient, Mother said. If my name is on a check, you will take it off. It's ceremonial, the director said. It's meant to celebrate local stories. My story is mine, Mother said. The treasurer stepped in. You know how small towns work. We all hold each other up. It's optics. No one is trying to hurt you. It took a lot to put this together. We don't need pushback over a nameplate. Pushback, Mother said. A word for hands that won't be moved. Mother glanced at the daughter-in-law, who was arranging a table of donor favors. The daughter-in-law pretended not to see. The son appeared with that half-smile he used when things were too far gone for easy fixes. The son hugged Mother quick and quiet. Please do not do this here, the son whispered. Talk to me later. It is here because they put it here. People drifted in. The room filled with greetings and greetings under those greetings. The director gave a short welcome from the stage and thanked the band and the lighting crew and the sponsors and the spirit of the river. The director told a story about a town that believes in its people and called up a series of donors for photos. Laughter rolled like small marbles over polished steps. When the director lifted the microphone again, a volunteer wheeled out the giant check. Mother watched Mother's own name curve across the glossy surface. The director said the words like the words had been waiting in a pipe for this exact moment. Tonight we honor a gift in the name of someone who builds our town's days, who feeds our spirit, who reminds us that kindness is work with sugar on top. Please help us think. The director spoke Mother's name. Mother stepped forward. Mother did not rush. The sound of the steps carried as if the floor wanted company. Mother lifted a small brass key and a folded note and a plain white envelope and set them on the table beside the check. Mother put a hand on the microphone and waited for the director to release it. The director held on half a second too long. Mother said, This key opens the pantry you keep your ledgers in. This note is from the clip on your calendar where you taped a change. This envelope includes a copy of a message you sent me a few hours ago, thanking me for a gift I did not give. I brought cupcakes. I did not bring your numbers. The room hushed the way rooms hush when they sense the temperature of truth and try to adjust. The treasurer stepped closer to the stage, face pale and eyes tracking people the way a person counts doors. The daughter-in-law pressed lips into a shape that used to be a smile. The son closed eyes and opened them slowly as if time could shift between an in and an out. The director kept smiling, a shape the face had practiced for years. Let's not ruin the evening, the director said, taking back the microphone. There must be a misunderstanding. It happens. The donor insisted on a quiet moment, and if the donor wants to remain anonymous, we will absolutely honor that. We are not placing a name. We are simply celebrating an idea. Then take my name off the check. It's a prop, the director said. The printer made an error. Then use a blank, the treasurer said. Voice clipped. Printing vendor is closed. It is simple, Mother said. Erase. A young volunteer reached for the check with a marker, and the treasurer snapped, "Don't touch that." The volunteer froze and pulled hands back like burned. Mother turned and looked at the nearest camera. Mother spoke as if into glass. If anyone here donated in my name, hand me the proof. If anyone signed in my name, hand me the pen. If anyone used my story to smooth your budget, hand me your seat. The director lifted both palms. We can revisit all this on Monday.
Mother said, Monday is for bakery orders. Friday at 5 is for the county auditor's office, where this town keeps truth in folders. I will bring this key. I will bring this note. I will bring receipts. Between now and then, use the pantry and find your courage. Music stumbled back to life because the band needed something to do. The crowd split into lines of people hungry for food or quiet. The sun stood still as if the air around the sun held the sun in place. The daughter-in-law put a hand on the son's arm again and then took it back as if the son's sleeve might give off a current. Mother left the stage with a face that looked like a street kept clean under difficult weather. Mother placed the cupcakes where they belonged and walked out through the loading dock into the cool air, as if the night would clear the room's heat. On the way home, Mother stopped at the grocery to buy milk for morning dough and a roll of tape, because tape is honesty with a spine. In the checkout line, the phone buzzed. The screen flashed a number Mother did not know. Mother let it go to voicemail. The voice that came through was not strange. It belonged to the treasurer. "We need to talk," the treasurer said, the kind of message people leave when they are used to opening doors with tone. "There's no need to take this outside the family. Call me back." Mother did not call back. Mother wrote the time down in the small notebook Mother kept in a pocket. Mother put the milk on the front seat and drove home along the road that passed 3 maples that turned orange exactly 2 days before the calendar said it was fall. At home, Mother poured milk into a pitcher and placed the tape on the table beside a stack of printed documents. The neighbor had emailed links. Mother printed copies and read them in a clean line. The quarterly report, the donor acknowledgement template, the sponsorship tier, the agenda. The agenda had an addendum typed in small print at the bottom. Stage presentation, local business honor. The addendum timestamp was late at night, after the clerk's office had closed. The director's login sat under the line. Mother took out an old key ring and slid the brass key off, turning it in hand, feeling the tiny scratch across the bow left by years in pockets with pennies and screws. Mother remembered the janitor's voice. "You always close the door right." Mother held the note from the clipboard at the Civic Center and read the edges like a map. The paper was a cheap copy, the kind that shines if it leans, and Mother had seen enough pantry notes to know when something had been moved, taped back, and called original. Mother slept the way people sleep who hold a set of facts in mind and wait for morning to sort itself out. In the bakery before dawn, Mother measured flour like time, steady and exact. The radio whispered news about weather and baseball and a road closure. The town was itself again, which is to say, waking up and pretending nothing happened until it had to. The neighbor walked in at 7 with a coffee and said, "You shook that room." "I asked them to write correct numbers," Mother said. The auditor heard, the neighbor said. "I saw a notice come in, Friday, 5 o'clock, public comment permitted." "Then Friday is where we go," Mother said. "You'll need more than feelings," the neighbor said, like a friend who knows a bigger truth and trusts the person in front of them to meet it. "Bring what you keep. Bring your book." Mother brought the book. Mother photocopied the pages that showed delivery logs, cooler temps, and vendor signatures that proved where Mother was and what Mother did at each hour. Mother pulled the invoice stack for the month and sorted them. The invoice numbers ran 1023, 1024, 1025, and then jumped to 1031 for the Civic Center event. Mother set 1031 aside and checked the date. A day earlier than the order was placed. The contractor had sent a text ordering cupcakes on a Tuesday. The invoice was dated Monday. The pen in Mother's hand paused. Mother called the contractor. Do you backdate invoices, Mother asked. No, the contractor said, sounding surprised. Never. You're the only vendor who still writes paper and scans them in. I love that about you. Old school, high trust. Mother ended the call, printed the text thread, and clipped the invoice to the thread. Mother slipped both into a clear sleeve with a small label, ordering timeline. Mother packed a box with folders, delivery logs, invoice numbers, screenshots of the foundation's files, a copy of the agenda with the late-night addendum. The brass key lay on the table like a small, quiet syllable. Mother added it to the box. Mother slipped the folded note in a smaller envelope and tucked it beside the key. On Thursday, after the lunch rush, the daughter-in-law walked into the bakery in sunglasses, voice like silk drawn tight. You embarrassed the director. You embarrassed me. The son had to take calls all night. The son can answer his phone. The director can answer the auditor. You are making a scene, the daughter-in-law said, placing hands on the glass of the pastry case and leaving 2 neat cloud prints. This looks small. I learned to survive small. Small keeps food safe. Small writes numbers right. You sound proud of being stubborn. You sound like people who don't see the bigger picture. The director wants to build a community center. The treasurer wants to fund after-school programs. Why attack the people who care? Because they are using names and money in ways that do not match, Mother said. They told me you would be difficult, the daughter-in-law said. And then the true line broke through the small talk and sat on the counter between both faces. They said you wouldn't understand how things get done. I understand, Mother said, voice soft. I have always understood how things get done. If you take this to the auditor, the daughter-in-law said, the foundation could lose donors, the treasurer could lose the seat, the son could lose friends. We could all end up looking like people who cannot move forward. Is that what you want your bakery to stand for? I want my bakery to stand. That takes flour, sugar, heat, and truth. The daughter-in-law lowered the sunglasses, looked as if to search Mother for a seam, and found none. Friday at 5, the daughter-in-law said. You will regret it. Friday at 5, Mother said. By the end of Thursday, the grocery shelves were already missing 2 brands of cereal and 1 brand of Patience. People in town like to pick sides and then tell themselves that their side was polite. Half the town said the foundation did so much good that the numbers did not matter if the goals were pure. Half said purity without proof is smoke that makes eyes water. Most people said nothing out loud and watched the street to see who moved which way. Friday morning smelled like rain and car exhaust. The bakery opened on time, and Mother frosted donuts while the radio listed the day's events, including a note about the auditor's public session. Mother boxed a dozen glazed for a man in work boots who tipped in careful quarters and said thank you. Mother poured coffee for a woman who had lost a dog and left flyers and a sadness that moved through the room like weather. Mother kept going, as always, as if life did not pause because meetings existed in the afternoon. At noon, the sun appeared. The sun looked like a boy who had learned to practice adulthood with good shirts and the right handshake. The sun's eyes were tired and hopeful anyway. I made a mistake, the sun said, hands flat on the counter as if trying to keep something from sliding. I told the director you'd be fine with a stage call-out if it helped the foundation. I told the director you wouldn't care about your name as long as the town looked good. I didn't know about the check. I thought it was a speech and a photo. Your name is your work, Mother said. If you give it away, make sure it is you who gives it. I wanted to be part of something that felt bigger than me, the son said.
The treasurer talks about systems and how you need to grease them or they lock. The daughter-in-law loves that talk. I start believing it in rooms like that. I forget the rooms where you taught me to show up on time with my own back straight, then tell the truth at 5. One sentence, start with I and end with was wrong. The rest will follow. What if I lose everything? The son asked. If a thing cannot stand next to truth, that thing is something you do not need to carry. At 4, Mother closed the bakery early and flipped the sign with a calm hand. The box with folders sat on the passenger seat, the key and the notes snug beside them. The county building rose out of the ground like a patience that finally learned to speak. The neighbor waited on the steps with a nod and a small thermos of tea. The neighbor said, "Here we go." And Mother said, "Here we go." People took seats in a room that smelled like paper and pencil shavings and floor polish. The auditors sat at a table at the front, flanked by 2 staffers with laptops and eyes that looked like hard years turned into muscle. The treasurer sat in the front row, folder on lap, face composed. The director sat 2 seats away, hands folded and smile at the ready. The daughter-in-law sat behind the director, spine straight, jaw set. The son sat beside Mother and stared at the floor vent like the vent might offer counsel. The neighbor took a seat on the aisle and rested a hand on the bag as if the bag itself needed comfort. The auditor opened with a simple statement about process, records, and courtesy. The auditor said, "We are here to restore clarity to numbers and names. We are here to decide what belongs to whom and what belongs to the town." The auditor invited public comment. No one moved at first. Mother stood and walked to the table. Mother placed the box down gently. The sound was small but audible. Mother spoke without raising the voice. "I run a bakery on Main Street. I bring receipts, a note, and a key." The auditor waited. Mother continued, "On the day of the gala, I received a receipt thanking me for a gift I did not give. The foundation printed a check with my name. The foundation said it was a celebration. I say it was a misrepresentation. I ask you to look at the records and ask one thing of this room. Match the numbers to the story." The auditor nodded and gestured. "Records?" Mother opened the first folder. "Delivery logs showing I delivered desserts as a vendor. Invoice numbers verifying order timing. A text thread with the contractor proving the date order was placed. The invoice generated by me was misdated on the copy turned in to the foundation's files. Here are the originals with original timestamps. Here is the screenshot of the foundation's addendum to the gala agenda, timestamped after hours under the director's login. Here is the printed donor acknowledgement template that lists my business as in-kind dessert provider and a separate line for an anonymous pledge. The line under donors says honor local business representative on stage." The auditor leaned forward. "Explain the key." The pantry at the Civic Center has a note that says the key is with the director. The director stores ledgers there. The note on the calendar was moved and retaped. The edgeware and tape residues show a change. I believe budget paperwork was moved into and out of that pantry around the gala. I do not accuse theft. I accuse mislabeling. If the ledgers show pledges recorded in the name of businesses without consent, I ask that those lines be corrected. If anyone wrote a number to cover a gap and planned to make it right later, I ask that we call that what it is." The auditor held out a hand. Mother placed the key and the note on the table with the calm you use to hand a friend a glass. The auditor looked at the note, the tape edges, the small smear of ink where a finger had pressed too hard and dragged before the pen dried. The auditor turned to the director.
Director, the auditor said, did you or anyone under your direction add an addendum to the gala agenda after hours, and did you plan to honor a pledge in the name of this business without consent? The director smiled that smile that had been trained on every room in this town. We honor stories. We wanted to celebrate the bakery spirit as a symbol. We assumed consent because of conversations within the committee. Perhaps there was a miscommunication. The auditor did not move. Did you add the addendum after hours? We often work late. It's passion. Did you plan to use this business's name on a check? It's a prop. We were going to recycle it. Numbers on a prop can still mislead. The auditor turned to the treasurer. Treasurer, did you or your office accept a pledge entered in the name of this business? The treasurer cleared the throat. We used a placeholder to excite the crowd. It's common. We believed an anonymous donor would cover the amount. And if the anonymous donor did not? The auditor asked. We have contingency funds, the treasurer said. Were those funds restricted? The auditor asked. The treasurer paused, a degree too long. They are flexible. The auditor turned to the son. You asked for public comment. Do you have any? The son stood, shaky at first, then stronger. I told the director my mother would be fine with an on-stage thank you because I wanted to fit in and I wanted to look like a person who belonged in those pictures. I did not ask my mother. I did not think about how a name is a promise, not a decoration. I was wrong. The room did a small thing that rooms do when someone says what they refuse to say for too long. It exhaled in a way that did not show itself. The auditor nodded once. Thank you. The daughter-in-law stood abruptly. You're all acting like criminals, the daughter-in-law said. This is a charity. The director is beloved. The treasurer is a volunteer. The foundation funds programs. We live in a town. We are not a courtroom. The auditor looked up. Ma'am, we are also a town that keeps records. Sit down or bring proof. The daughter-in-law sat down. The auditor opened a folder and slid a paper forward. We have the foundation's quarterly submission. There is a line for pledges receivable noted as collected at Dalla. Director, show us the pledge forms. The director swallowed. Some paperwork is still being reconciled. Open the pantry, Mother said, voice even. Use the key. The auditor held the key up. The neighbor rose quietly and said, The Civic Center staff can bring the ledgers. The neighbor stepped out and returned with a staffer carrying 2 gray boxes. The auditor unlocked the pantry in the hallway within view of the room. The boxes sat on the table like patient animals. The auditor lifted the lid on the first box and removed a file labeled Pledges. Inside, forms with names and numbers lay in a tidy stack of unease. The auditor flipped through and set aside 3 forms where the handwriting slanted left and the ink bled through. The auditor held one up. This pledge form is in the name of the bakery, the auditor said. The signature does not match this business owner's. The phone number listed is the director's office. The email listed is a generic foundation email. Director, who filled out the form? The director's smile vanished, and the director's face looked like the shape under the practiced shape. We pre-filled cards to save time, the director said, to make it easy for donors. Were donors told their names would be used in this way? The auditor asked. We wanted to honor community spirit, the director said weakly. The thing about spirit, Mother said softly, is that it dies without air. The auditor stacked the forms and slid them back into the folder. The auditor turned to the treasurer. Treasurer, you are responsible for controls. Explain the invoice jump. The treasurer blinked. What jump? Mother lifted the clear sleeve and handed it over. Invoice 1031 is dated before the order was placed. The Foundation's file uses that copy. The original shows the correct date. Someone altered a date to align with the pledge. The auditor read both, then passed them to the staffer. The staffer typed quickly and whispered to the auditor, who nodded. We have the email logs, the auditor said. The altered invoice was uploaded from the treasurer's office. The treasurer said nothing. Silence pressed down like snow on a branch it has no right to hold. The auditor folded hands. Here is the question that decides this. Did you move restricted funds under the cover of a fake pledge because a donor promised and then backed out? The room waited. The treasurer opened the mouth, closed it, opened it again. We were going to fix it Monday, the treasurer said. Fix it, the auditor repeated, a word that could mean many things and often means none. Director, treasurer, you will step down pending review. The board may initiate a recall. The foundation will return any misapplied funds. The district attorney will decide whether this is a matter for criminal court. For now, we will correct the public record and we will return this name to the person who lives inside it. People began to talk all at once. The daughter-in-law turned to the son, eyes bright with something like fear, or the moment fear turns to a plan. The son held up a hand, not large, but large enough to be a stop for once. I will help fix what I broke, the son said to the daughter-in-law, in a voice simple and true. I will not pretend. I will tell the people I told a lie. Do you think that makes you noble? The daughter-in-law said, choking on the last word. I think it makes me my mother's son, the son said. The auditor banged nothing. The room did not need a gavel. The room had truth. Truth is loud when it lands well. The auditor set deadlines and handed forms, and staffers moved with the grace of people who know the steps. The neighbor squeezed Mother's shoulder. The director looked smaller without the smile. The treasurer stared at a spot on the floor that was not a spot at all. The daughter-in-law gathered a purse that had always looked heavier than purse weight. The son sat down beside Mother and breathed like a person who had been underwater and then found surface. On the way out of the county building, the son sat low and clean. People were kinder in the hallway than they had been on the internet the night before. Kindness is easier in hallways. The neighbor said, "You brought the right tools." Mother said it was a small box, receipts, a note, a key. Small is what works, the neighbor said. Mother returned to the bakery and unlocked the door. The air smelled like proof dough ready for heat. The mixer sat still as a loyal dog waiting for the next run. Mother tied the apron and washed hands and lined up cups and started batter like a clock, finally back on time. The next morning, the foundation board posted a message about integrity and process and regret. The board announced an interim director with a face that looked like someone who knows how to say no, and we won't do that anymore. The treasurer resigned from the HOA seat. A group of neighbors began passing a petition for a recall vote anyway, because sometimes you do the thing, even if the thing already happened, to practice the feel of hands pushing in the right direction. The auditor scheduled a follow-up review and set a date for training on nonprofit controls. The training sold out. The clerk's office printed extra copies of the rules and placed them in a stand near the door with a sign that read, "Take one, we mean it." The daughter-in-law walked into the bakery the following week. The sunglasses were gone. The voice was smaller. The jaw had relaxed in a way that made a human appear under the plastic.
I was wrong, the daughter-in-law said, hands flat on the counter. I wanted pictures. I wanted to stand next to power. I called it good because that made it clean. I hurt you. I hurt the sun. I hurt people who trust my face on a board. I am sorry. You have work to do, Mother said, not unkindly. You can start by calling the people you talk to and telling the truth with your own mouth. Then you can show up where you are not dressed for pictures and help wash dishes. I can do that, the daughter-in-law said. Do it before you say it again, Mother said. The son came by that afternoon with a folder of forms. The son had met with the HOA and returned keys to a storage closet the son had borrowed for a fundraiser that had nothing to do with the HOA. The son wrote an email to donors who had been told things that were not things. The son asked the neighbor to read it for clarity. The son then asked Mother if Mother needed help with the evening run. Mother handed the son a box of cookies and said, "Deliver these to the shelter. Tell them we had extras. Tell them extras are built into the plan." "What plan?" the son asked. "The plan where we are human," Mother said. "We fail, we fix, we feed." The bakery grew busier in the weeks that followed. People drove from the next town over because they heard about a place where the cupcakes tasted like someone was watching the thermometer at the exact minute the icing needed to set. The high school called and asked Mother to speak to a class about small business, not about scandal. Mother said yes and told the students 3 things. Write things down, never sign what you do not read, and keep a small brass key to remind yourself that rooms open and rooms close, and you should know which one you want to do before you touch the handle. The foundation redirected its energy. The new interim director met with the auditor and the board and wrote clearer policy language. The donor wall lost a few plaques and gained a line at the top that said, "Funded by people who signed their own names." The gala moved its event to autumn and changed its theme from glitter to daylight. The band still played standards. The cupcakes still came from the bakery. The check at the front was blank until it was not, and when it was not, the person who had written the number stood at the microphone and said, "I wrote this number." The town remembered the sound of the right sentence at the right time. The daughter-in-law joined a Saturday cleanup by the river and picked up trash with a grabber and a seriousness that makes a body bend the right way. The daughter-in-law filled bags without looking around to see who saw. The daughter-in-law spoke at the next PTA meeting and said, "We are not the pictures we post. We are the lists we cross off that nobody claps for." People clapped anyway because they wanted to be the kind of people who know which moments deserve a hand. The Sun put in hours in places with fluorescent lights and no stage. The Sun fixed parts of the website for the shelter and stacked donations and learned the names of 3 volunteers who were always there when it rained. The Sun started sleeping like a person who used the day. The treasurer sold a house and moved to a condo 2 towns over where nobody knew the face or the former title. The director took a job 2 counties away with a public apology attached like a paperclip to a file that keeps slipping off. The auditor kept holding Friday sessions at 5, and people began to show up, not to fight, but to listen. The neighbor printed agendas and brought a small basket of oranges for anyone who needed sugar to be kind. One afternoon, the county posted a photo of a new plaque on the Civic Center wall. It read, "This room is for meetings where numbers and names match." The plaque was plain. The letters were deep. People at the ribbon cutting laughed because the ribbon was not necessary for a room that had been there for years, only necessary for the idea that now lived inside it. Mother's Bakery bought a second oven with the grant from a program that gave money to businesses run by people who promised to hire local teenagers and train them in the dull arts of keeping a ledger and cleaning a floor. Mother hired 3. Mother taught them to write numbers in a way their future could trust.
Each teenager held a pen like a fate. One evening in early winter, when the river turned to dark glass and lights from the bridge made long pencils on the surface, the son and the daughter-in-law came to the bakery with a box. "It's not a giant check," the son said. "It's a thank you that fits on a counter." Inside the box, soft tissue wrapped a small wooden frame. The frame held a photo of Mother at the auditor's table, the key and the note in front, the face calm and strong. Under the photo lay a card. The card said, in the son's handwriting, "Thank you for bringing the right things to the right room." The daughter-in-law had drawn a small cupcake in the corner, and under it a line that said, "Thank you for making a stage where none stood." Mother hung the frame near the thermometer book in a spot people did not notice unless they worked, a place visible at eye level to the person who checks temperatures at the top of every hour. Mother liked it there because the reminder was for the worker, not the passerby. On the anniversary of the hearing, the auditor walked into the bakery for a coffee. The auditor did not order complicated things. The auditor took the coffee black and the donut plain. The auditor paid with exact change. The auditor looked at the frame and smiled one small smile. "You kept the key," the auditor said. "I keep everything that matters, keys, notes, receipts." The auditor said, "You taught the town a simple rule. Simple rules are hard." Mother said, "Simple rules are work. Work I will do." That night, the town held a winter parade with paper lanterns and kids wrapped in scarves and a brass band that got 3 songs right and 2 wrong and smiled through all 5. People stood with hands around cups and feet moving to keep toes alive. The daughter-in-law lifted a lantern and wrote a wish on the side. "May I earn back what matters." The son wrote, "May I tell the truth faster." The neighbor wrote, "May we file on time." Mother wrote, "May we feed the people in line." And then Mother handed the marker to a child who wrote, "May there be cupcakes at the end." And that was the wish that made the most sense of all. Mother did not talk much about the day at the Civic Center anymore. People brought it up for a while, and then the story folded itself into the town like flour into batter. Nothing to look at if you were not paying attention, everything if you were. The key stayed on the hook behind the counter. The note stayed in the box as proof of a small lie with big hands. The receipts stayed where receipts stay. The book filled with numbers that matched faces. On a summer afternoon, a year later, the new foundation director stopped by for a cookie and left a flyer. The flyer invited the public to a workshop on how to read a nonprofit budget like you mean it. The workshop met at the Civic Center on a Saturday morning. Mother put the flyer in the window next to the daily specials. People signed up. Some of them were people who had thought they did not need to know any of this because they were good. People who are good still need to know. In the workshop, the trainer asked volunteers to read a sample budget and spot the trapdoors. The neighbor raised a hand and pointed out where words hid lines. The daughter-in-law raised a hand and asked how to set controls so even the person you trust most has to show numbers twice. The son raised a hand and asked what to do when a story gets ahead of the math. The room laughed gently because they knew. The trainer wrote on the whiteboard, "Do not let story run past math," and underlined it twice. Sometimes Mother still heard whispers at events, the kind people share with a smile that wants to be harmless and misses. Mother did not take them personally. Whispers belong to people who do not know where else to put their doubt. Mother gave them a place, a ledger column titled Noise, useful to recognize, not to spend. On the day the city named the small plaza in front of the Civic Center, there was no grand donor, just a blue sign that read Neighbors Square.
The town clapped for the idea of neighbor like it was a person standing on the stage. It was. It always is. The neighbor cut the ribbon, not like a VIP, but like someone opening the day. The auditor clapped. The interim director clapped. The board clapped. The kids clapped because clapping is fun. Mother clapped too, then went back to the bakery to pull a tray from the oven when the timer rang.
Years turned the story into a lesson with a date and an address. Schools told it to seniors before graduation. Coaches told it to teens before fundraisers. Pastors told it with different words on Sundays. The ending stayed the same. A person brought the right small things to the right hard room and asked the one question that made the town real again. Do the numbers match the names? The answer became yes more often. The town grew into that yes. It is a good way to grow. Mother did not forget the beginning. The beginning happened every morning when the lights came on and the oven clicked and the book opened to a fresh page. The beginning tasted like sugar and salt and flour and a little risk and a lot of care. Mother knew endings are for stories and beginnings are for days. On a good day, a story begins again. On an autumn night when the wind banged loose shutters against old brick and the leaves made a racket on the sidewalks, the daughter-in-law stood at the counter, eyes bright with a kind of light that comes from inside and not from phones. The daughter-in-law wore an apron dusted with flour. "Shift change," the daughter-in-law said. "I can finish the batch." "Your hands are clean," Mother said. "My hands are learning," the daughter-in-law said. Mother slid over the bowl. The daughter-in-law stirred. The son came in the back with 2 crates of eggs. The neighbor knocked on the door and held up a paper bag of apples from the farmer's market, as if the apples were a promise. The auditor walked by and lifted a hand through the window and kept moving toward the next thing that needed counting. In the corner, a young employee marked the cooler temperature and smiled at the neatness of 38, the way numbers look when they belong to the truth. The town slept. The river moved. The light hummed. Mother set a timer, and the bell rang when it should. The day did what days do. It started, and the key hung on the hook behind the counter, ordinary and ready, a small metal word for open or close, depending on who held it and when. A letter arrived one morning addressed to the bakery, written in block print, without a return address. Inside was a simple card. "Thank you for not giving up the first time someone told you to be quiet." The card had no signature. It did not need one. Mother placed it behind the frame with the photo from the hearing. Mother did not cry. Mother rarely cried. But Mother stood there a moment longer than usual before getting back to work. Time made space. Mother hired the teenagers full-time one by one as they grew. Mother watched one go to community college at night to study accounting because the numbers made sense there in ways they did not on the street. Mother watched another open a small coffee cart by the river and run it with the care of someone who learned to write things down. Mother watched a third move away and send a postcard with a picture of a different river and a different bridge and handwriting that said, "Everything you taught me works here too." She pinned it on the corkboard above the mixer and smiled at the way maps do not own truth. Truth travels light. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, when the bakery closed early and the light swung in through the front window like music without sound, Mother took down the book and turned to a blank page. At the top, in small, neat letters, Mother wrote, "What to do when the story gets loud." Under it, Mother wrote 3 lines. The first line said, "Bring receipts." The second line said, "Bring a note." The third line said, "Bring a key." Then, just below, Mother added a 4th line that was not there before. The 4th line said, "Bring a neighbor." Mother underlined that once. It felt right. When the next gala rolled around with better rules and less glitter and more day, the foundation invited Mother to speak.
Mother declined the stage but sent cupcakes and a handwritten card that read, "I am busy at home tonight, working. I hear your numbers are too." The card sat on the director's table, and the director smiled the way people smile when they know the room is stronger under their feet. The check the foundation held up that night had 3 signatures at the bottom: the donor, the treasurer, the auditor's countersign. The crowd cheered, not because the number was large, but because the ink was right. Sometimes, even now, a rumor tries to get legs. It does not go far. The town knows how to walk toward records when it must. The gate is not locked. The pantry is not a hiding place. The key is a tool, and the hand that holds it belongs to anyone who is willing to show up and ask for the ledger. Mother keeps working. That is the real ending, which is to say, it is not an ending at all. It is a way to live. It looks like a person setting a cup on a table and their hand not shaking. It looks like a room at 5 o'clock on a Friday where the air smells like paper and the faith that says small things done right keep the big things from falling through. It looks like a bakery where the thermometer says 38 over and over and over, and the numbers are boring, and the boring is beautiful. If you walk into the bakery today and order a cupcake, the box will be taped shut at one corner with a piece of brown tape, because brown tape holds best. Inside the lid, you might find a small sticker with 4 words printed in plain black letters. The words say, receipts, note, key, neighbor. If you ask Mother what it means, Mother will hand you the cupcake, make change without looking at the register, and say, "It means we are still here." Then Mother will turn to the next person in line, because there is always a next person, and the work goes on, as it should.